great conversation need great company and great meals. That's why I'm proud to have Texas Day Brazil as a sponsor of the podcast. Think about it. Endless perfect grilled meats, fine wine, and an atmosphere that makes any night feel like a celebration. That's what they do best. Just like this podcast, it's all about bringing people together for something memorable. And now, we're picking one lucky listener to experience it all for free. That's right, dinner for two at Texas Day Brazil. All you have to do is go to TommyHabeeb.com. No purchase necessary. Full terms and conditions are on the website at TommyHabeeb.com. Thanks to Texas Day Brazil for sponsoring our show and making this happen. You're going to love it. Listen, I was a young actor, went out to Hollywood, had to beat the streets. You know, I remember all my friends back in Texas going, oh, Tommy's making millions of dollars because they saw me on TV. No, it's a battle and it's a fight because I had to learn, and I didn't understand this at 19 years old, but it is sales. It's marketing. I would go on 20 auditions a week, and I had to sell myself. And now my guest today, you're going to see we were complete opposites because in the 80s, they were all casting him. They weren't looking at me. I was the fifth, sixth guy down the road. They'd throw me a couple lines maybe to do. But it was all sales pitching and understanding that, right? Being secure with yourself and comfortable enough to be able to walk through that door and sell and market. And I'm not talking about hardcore selling because, listen, if I didn't love what I do, I grew up in a family business. If I didn't love dealing with people, I wasn't ever trying to sell somebody something they didn't want or sell them too much. And for God's sakes, if you came in our jewelry store in Corpus Christi, Texas back in the day, typically my mom was giving you more than they were buying. It was amazing, but we built a family, and you build trust and relationships. And I think that in all these stories and all these episodes of my show that we talk so much about caring about your neighbor and that person. And if you truly care, it's not selling somebody something. So when I although I've launched lots of products all over the world, and I think the reason my products have done so well in Walmart's, Target's, 7-Elevens, Nordstrom's, Neiman Marcus, I think I had success there because of honesty. All I've been is honest with the public and said, here's a shirt I made, and this is the quality, and here's why I think it's important that you buy this. And most of my stuff has a mission base behind it. So don't forget, you buy my T-shirt, we're going to give one away. Now, I'm not doing this, but I should start doing it, and maybe that's a good idea. We'll give it away to a homeless individual or somebody that needs a T-shirt. That's going to be our next launch. We're going to do that. I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest here in just a minute. You saw him on Baywatch. He was Pamela Anderson's love interest, one of the most chiseled, handsome guys on television. It's very intimidating to even be in the same room because this guy has all the tools. David Chokachi. David Chokachi, man, my friend. So, God, dude, you did it, you're doing it, and you're making it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The beauty is you took celebrity and you are using it for such great reasons. Now, I want to talk real fast kind of about some stuff. Then we're going to go back to David's journey and we're going to learn, oh man, the pitfalls, the things that you had to go through because to be on the number one show in the world, that's,
it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. No, people think that my life's, that's all I want right there. Well, no, it's not always what you want. Be careful what you ask for. You know what I mean? But I'm so pumped because, dude, I rescue dogs. I have a show about rescue. It's my passion. We live that. You just went through one of the most traumatic experiences that anybody could ever went through. David lives in Malibu, Point Dume, and he was in the middle of the fires. And I mean, my heart, when you were telling me these stories, right, going in there, you went arm in arm with this one firefighter, and y'all were rescuing these animals. That were so burned. I mean, I bow down to you. I applaud you, because to do that to something special. And so let's go. Do you mind if we just go right into it?
We can jump right wherever you want to go.
Okay. Let's talk about the Malibu fires, right?
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of this. And how really intense was that? Because just from the outside, we don't really get to see it.
You know, we've been living. We have a house in town, and we've been living out on Point Dume for many years. Used to rent, and then we started living full time there about a year ago. And it's like the one last sanctuary, I think, because I surf all the time. My daughter's in junior lifeguards, which is at Zuma Beach. It's just you get to be in nature. You know, I've been through some hardship. I had a bad injury that was screwed up by a surgeon, and all the darkness overcame me because I had to have another surgery. But nature healed me.
Most important. Can I interrupt one quick second? Because it's kind of surreal. You're out there. You're on the beach surfing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And here's David Chokachi, Baywatch, lifeguard. Do they flip out a little bit? Some of the vacationers coming down to Zuma Beach?
Well, no.
Or they even reckon, I mean, do you get lost?
No, not down there. They don't really care. But I do have a funny story real quick. Like one time I was in South Beach for some work event with my manager, and I've had this happen before where people are like, they recognize me from Baywatch and like, hey, I'm drowning, I need help. And I'm like, you know, and I've been played, like, and then I'll be like, I'll go swim out to them. They're like, or they'll either laugh or be like, oh, I just wanted you to swim out to me. And then this one time it was happening, and this girl was like 40 yards offshore, and I'm like, I'm not falling for it. And she kept doing it, and finally my manager went out there, and it turns out she was really in trouble.
Oh my gosh!
And but I was like, you guys have clowned me so many times.
Yeah,
I'm not.
One time the girl's drowning.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you look the same. You know, you really haven't changed.
Thank you, man.
And for an old guy, that's just really upsetting. Come on,
shoot, man. I'm getting, you know, I'm in my 50s, so. But just, you know, what I was going to get back to is just nature.
Yeah, sorry.
Living in nature, man. You know, it's really powerful. Being in the ocean, direct sunlight, you know, all those things just help you keep you young and fit.
Well, there's so many people go to that office every day.
Yeah.
And they work under these lights, these fluorescent lights that just seem to suck it out of us. Tell me about how important that is. If you were to talk to people, just take your shoes off.
Oh my gosh! Like after this injury, because it took 3 years. You know.
Oh man.
It's 12 to 15 months for an Achilles rupture repair. The guy screwed it up. It took me a year to figure out it was screwed up. It was wrong. The tendon was too long. He didn't do it tight enough. Second surgery. So another 12 to 15 months now, and then also I found out. During the second surgery, they gave me a nerve block that was just right below the knee, and they don't offer it. They say, hey, they tell you post-surgery, like, great news, you're not going to feel any pain for 2 days. We gave you a nerve block. I'm like, okay. I find now this is a year after recovery. My toes are numb, tingling in my foot.
Oh.
I find out one of the risks of having a nerve block when you're doing any kind of surgery below the knee is temporary or permanent nerve damage, and that's what I have now. So I'm like, that's messed up, and I've done all kinds of things. Anyway, my foot.
Maybe somebody tell me before.
How about offering and telling me, like, do you want the pain, or do you want? I would take the pain 1,000 times over instead of what I'm dealing with now, and like, but it's fine. I just can't, like. I'll get there. You know, it kind of took me out for a while, like, but I got over it. I came out actually this strong, like, you know how they always say, like, when you experience long periods of suffering, and if you're able to come out the other side, you actually gain, like, I felt like I gained a superpower. And the way I came out is by using those things I talked about, like walking barefoot, watching sunrise. I probably this summer saw 50 sunrises with my dog. Like, you can watch it for like 5 minutes and it affects your brain.
That's healing.
Breath work, no sugar, exercise, community, all those things. You start stacking them.
Yeah.
And then it works. Like, I'm living proof it works.
I mean, so I've seen so many people go through surgeries, very difficult surgeries, and the pain that came along with it, and not come out well on the other side. End up in addiction and in rehab somewhere because it is traumatic and very difficult to deal with, and you had to do it twice.
Yeah, and it's just, with a tourniquet, it's 6 weeks, no weight bearing, so you're stuck on the couch.
Yeah,
because you don't want to slip. You slip, you're starting. It's a mess. It's just a lot of isolation, and I'm a super active guy. I played sports my whole life. I've always, I surf all the time, yoga, trail running, lifting weights, and all of a sudden, I'm working as an actor and being a dad, and all that was stripped away.
Wow.
And then you stack on another. So 3 years of basically stripping away the things I love messes with your mind, man. Your body goes, wait, where's all these love things we were getting? Now all you're doing is, and I was good for probably the first year. I was reading, I was writing, and then after the second surgery, I'm like, I just felt myself going down.
Going into depression.
Yeah.
Because you're going, enough.
Yeah. And it's just the most boring routine physical therapy. Like, it's mind blowing. And then you got to spend an hour at least a day on your leg, and then you got to do something for the rest of your body. So it's just, anyway, I don't want to talk about.
And you had a young kid, a child, not.
Well, she's 13, but yeah, I missed. I couldn't ski with her for. We had it was a dump, and we were in Deer Valley, and I was like, and it was powder skiing. I was like, I was stuck at home, and I was like. Just like, anyway,
I have to miss this.
Yeah, but let's go back to the fires.
Let's go back to Malibu and the fires.
So anyway, in 2018, we were the line producer from Baywatch. This amazing guy, his name was Tom Moore. He owned about an acre and a half in the same neighborhood, and he was a famous kind of. He was they call him a Howley because he went to UH and he was part of like the canoe racing team, and he was a really good paddler, amazing surfer, waterman, everything. And he had 3 homes on his property, and we lived in this beautiful kind of circular tree house. I am a carpenter also, so I renovated the bottom. We put a lot of love into it, and then it was just like. But by the time I even saw like the plume of smoke when I was picking up my daughter from school, it was like mandatory evacuation, and nobody ever thought. Everybody's like, no, it's not. It'll never jump to PCH. Boom, jump to PCH, and guess what? Our place still is. They had to rebuild. He passed away, but it's 50 yards from a fire department, and not only because the fire started in all these different places, they were gone, but when they eventually came back to try and deal with what was happening on Point Doom, there was no water.
So the firefighters were off doing other fires.
Yeah,
because their homes were burning.
Yeah, well, it hadn't hit that area yet.
Okay,
it was kind of last to hit. So there was they were deployed everywhere else, and then by the time it came to Point Doom, by the time they got there, it was like late. It was too late for so many homes, and then again, no water in the fire hydrants. So how in 6 years do they not fix that problem? How it with genius people.
Fires happen every year.
We're sending robots to Mars that are doing this. Like, how do we not have someone? How hasn't Elon Musk come up with something? Come on, Elon, save us. It's just, but a lot of people.
How do you run out of water?
I guess it's not really a lot of it's. Well, some of it was running out of water. Like the Palisades Reservoir was empty because it was under construction. So, which all this money had been dedicated to, but yet. Supposedly that nothing has happened for years there. So people are like, where is that money? Where is that money?
Water for sure. Too.
And then, but what happens when there's a fire that's massive, every hydrant is being used at the same time. So the pressure becomes just doesn't work. So I guess that's part of the problem. But a lot of people, they've come up with a solution is if you have a pool, this guy invented a system. We have one at our house now, and he created and designed it for civilian use, but it's really great. It's color-coded hoses designed for your entire house, 360 hoses. You drop the intake into your pool, you pull it. It's super simple.
Like gas driven?
Yep, gas driven. So, and the nozzle's 3.5 inches, the same as a fire truck. And he's like, here, he wanted to train me on it. And we dropped it in the pool, and he's like, grab it. And I was like, whoa, dude. It's like a fire hose, like a full power. So you can actually save your own. And the beauty about that is a pool, like a fire truck can only carry like 500 gallons of water, and they always leave with 100 for safety. So the most they're going to put on your house is 400 gallons and then leave.
Well,
and your pool has, like, our pool is not that big, and it happens to have like 38,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
So you can use this system and save your own house if you know what you're doing, if you're smart and have some protective gear.
That's pretty genius.
But we lost our house in that fire. It was a rental, but there was a lot of personal property. It was more, I felt for the guy because he was in his his 70s. And when we came back it was his sanctuary. He would go swim in the morning.
This was 6 years ago.
Yep, in 2018,
okay.
The Woolsey fire. He had a house up at Latigo where his wife lived. She lived a different life. He wanted the beach, and when we walked the property with him, that after the first time we were allowed back in and saw, I mean, we're talking they had metal storage containers, for some stuff that were hidden in the bushes. I mean, those were melted to the ground. So you can imagine the destruction. And then I saw something like click in his brain in the wrong direction, and he never recovered.
Wow.
And then he ended up having congestive heart failure and passing away. But it was the property he had brought in so many fruit trees. He had berry plants everywhere. You could eat off that property like in the summertime, just by the produce alone. It was just a sanctuary. Yeah. So that was heartbreaking
because that's years of growth.
Years of growth. Yeah. And he loved it, and he was a close friend. And I felt, we lost stuff, and some stuff we lost that we'll never get back. And I also spent about a year, rebuilding the bottom floor. And then every day I'd go to the beach. I'd carry up some beach rocks because there's plenty of them, and I built this killer rock garden out of beach rocks.
Wow.
And when we walked back over, those were so burned, like you just step on them and they crumble to ash. But so that we didn't have a chance there. Then again, and then in the fall in November, we had the Franklin fire, which was really close to us. And again, I was in East LA. My daughters had a volleyball tournament, and then I'm looking at like an Instagram and on the news, and it's like approaching. It was burning like 2 miles long from the valley to the ocean, basically, a line of fire, and it was coming towards our neighborhood. And I was like, no way, I'm not letting this happen again. I know the sheriff. I'm like, can I get in? He's like, yeah, just go around, because PCH South was closed from our entrance. So I drove out there like as fast as I could. From 8 at night till 4:30 in the morning, I packed up our entire house into my car, into suitcases that I was going to stack on the car if I had to flee. And then I would hike out to this vantage point once at 10 p.m. and I looked at it. I was watching it. I'd watch it like flare up, and then I'd watch the helicopters hit it, go down, flare right back up. I'm like, that's not good.
Were the winds howling?
No, this was they were supposed to howl. It started out the first 2 days they were howling, and then this particular day they were predicted to howl again. And then I went back at 2 a.m, hiked out and looked at it. It had moved 2 ridge lines closer, which is a lot of distance. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I was like, by then I'm just grabbing everything. Everything was packed, ready to go. But you can't communicate. I had a satellite phone I was trying to activate, and these people, like, you have to call them I was on standby mode. Unless you call them during business hours to turn it on to spend $100 a month, you can't turn it on. I'm like, you guys got to fix that system.
Yes.
Because you can't so I could just drive up to PCH to see where it was closed. I mean, I could see the flames right there. And I'm like, man. And I was afraid to go to bed because I was afraid to wake up surrounded by an inferno.
Where was your family at the time?
I sent them away in a town. It was just me because we have that system. And also the woman behind us who owns her house, she has a system. She was there by herself.
A swimming pool.
She has it's a beautiful, it's nothing special. It's like a small L-shaped ranch, but it's just, for me, this place is magic. It's like flat property on the top of a hill. And she was by herself, and the husband's out of the picture. Her son was in there, and I didn't want to even leave her, so I wanted to be able to help her because I knew she was staying. So I wanted to be like available to her, and I kept communicating with her. But we just got lucky. I mean, had the winds picked up to 30 knots, all of that area would have been gone. In that Franklin fire, and that was to November. Right. Because they couldn't stop it. They were slowing it down, but they weren't stopping it. We just got lucky the wind didn't blow.
So many people would go, have you lost your mind? Because you not only stayed there in that dangerous situation, but you were still there.
Yeah, well,
and now all of a sudden,
guess what? The landlord, this woman who's awesome, she was like, you can stay in this house as long. The fact that you drove out here when they're evacuating people and you're willing to help me and you're ready to run that fire system, like, you're like, I don't know who you are. I mean, she knows who I am, but in terms of a human being, that's what I mean. Like, right. But she's like, you guys can stay leasing that house as long as you want. Like, wow. And so we bonded over that. But this thing, this was like a different beast because it was, and you know, after. So let me preface this real quick by. One of the firefighters from Station 69 in the Palisades, his wife is friends with my wife and another friend. And she wasn't even asking for this, but she just said, man, the guys, they're and this is how firefighters are. They just don't, they're sleeping on beds that structure survived. They're toxic. They're covered in toxicity. These smokes, it smells horrible. The carpet.
Because everything else was burning around it.
Yeah. So imagine what you're sleeping in. So. Yeah. My wife went in to sit and sleep, and out of the blue, she's like, let's do something about this. We were just going to buy them, and she was going to ask for a discount. They were super cool. The sun came down. She got on the phone. He's like, they ended up donating 22 new beds to this fire station. Because I work construction, and we used to do tons of demo. I'm like, I'll go rip out that carpet. It was 1,000 square feet. I could know how to do it super fast because if they're busy, like I don't want them doing it. And so he had to drive all the way up to Point Doom, because there's National Guard checkpoints everywhere, and nobody's supposed to be on PCH unless you're federal or you're a fire department or a first responder. So I'm following him, and these guys the National Guard's not messing around, bro. They were eyeballing me at every checkpoint. Like, why is he with you? And I'm like, look, talk to the fireman.
Well, you look like you could be a fireman.
Yeah, but the beauty of it, I know this is going to be a little long-winded, is the day before someone reached out saying this woman is stuck up at Carbon Mesa, which was inside the checkpoint. This is the Sheep Mom. And if you guys look on Instagram.
No. Yeah, they have to see this.
Yeah. So go to Sheep Mom. I think it's Sheep Mom Sheep Mom for Autism. We'll put it in the notes or something. But
right.
The video of her showing up at her, what used to be she would rent it for weddings, Airbnb. It was her income source. She lived below Ed Harris. Mel Gibson lived behind her. Both their houses burned.
Wow,
and
really?
She doesn't come from, her dad just happened to teach her how to build things. She built everything there by hand. And I saw the before pictures and I was like, wow. But that was her source of income. And so she fled with it, and she has 2 autistic kids, 3 giant dogs, rabbits. She fled with them, but she couldn't catch the sheep. They're impossible to catch unless you're like out of a team. So she got out, and then when she went back in, snuck back in once it was like the fires were semi under control. And she has a video of herself seeing the property for the first time, which is heartbreaking. I mean, it's brutal.
How do you, when you went to talk to her and help her get these sheep, tell me.
So I went, so my friend I didn't even know, the stunt woman's like, would you go get her supplies? And so I was like, what does she need? Because I couldn't even communicate. She needed everything. It was freezing at night now. All of a sudden,
staying there.
She had that there was nothing there, but right next door there was like a shelter that was standing, basically like a concrete building. That's where her kids were. Everybody was. It was freezing at night. She had nothing, food, no, and the firemen at Fire Station 70 down below were trying to help her, but they were, and they knew she was there. They were cool with it, but they were like, if you leave, that we can't get you back in. So You can't go out to get food.
She just wouldn't leave.
No, she's like, I'm not leaving my sheep, and I'm not
But you
leaving.
have children.
Yeah, but she's a strong woman. So I went and bought her like $600 worth of like vitamins. She needed a bra. She needed like dog food for the dogs, warm clothing because it happened to be freezing now at night. And the only reason I was able to deliver this food is because I had agreed to go help the firemen that next day down in the Palisades. And when the guy met me at Cross Creek and he knew what I was doing, I had told him the night before, and he saw how much stuff. He's like, "Would you want to deliver this to her in person?" I was like, "Can we?" He's like, "Heck yeah, dude." So we drove up to her property and spent 2 hours with her. Like he had stuff to do, but he was even blown away by like her story and her resourcefulness and how, but he was like, when we were afterwards, he was like, she's like at a breaking point. Like she's lost everything, and that's just one story. But just because I happened to agree to like go do that work, I was able to like deliver these supplies to sustain her for a week, which was amazing. And then we helped them, and I've become friends with these guys now at Station 69. But I saw the devastation for the first time on the PCH driving down. I have videos on my camera. I'm like, you never used to be able to see the ocean driving south on the PCH. Now all you see is the ocean. And then behind the fire station is, I mean, I've never seen such mass destruction. Like if this was your view, as far left, as far this way, and then if you went up high, it's gone, burnt to the ground, smoldering. Like there's nothing standing. I mean, it's just insane. So
you're doing this work. There's not a film crew filming it.
No, man. No.
You just committed.
Yeah, no, I run towards things. I mean,
what's your wife thinking at this point?
She's thinking I'm a little crazy, definitely.
She's okay with you.
Well, she's like, she was psyched that I was helping people, but she's like, are you safe? What's going on? And it's hard to communicate with her because of the phones. There's no cell service. So during these fires, during the Palisades fire, they cut the power because the Woolsey fire was started by an electrical power lines. So now anytime there's a wind event, they cut the power where we live. So that usually means they cut the Wi-Fi gets cut unless you have a generator, which we didn't at the time. But then this time they cut the natural gas too. So almost everybody's generator in that area was run on natural gas. Mm-hmm. So now the area is pitch black at night, and there were looters, and we found them. So people I stayed behind with my dog, and there's a couple other people. Emilio Estevez was one. He's hardcore. John Stockwell, do you know him?
Yeah.
He's cool. He's very resourceful. And my buddy who happened to direct the Baywatch documentary. And we would go out, and we found one guy at like 1 a.m. sitting in his car. By the way, it's illegal to be in an evacuation zone unless you're a resident. So he's got Utah plates. It's 1 a.m. And we're in our golf cart, and we're dressed. We kind of look like, I don't know. We don't look like we're like Mr. Rogers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Navy SEALs.
Yeah, we have like fanny packs with some stuff in them that, and I had my dog with me on this portion, and he's not a friendly looking dog, but he's a sweetheart if they had only known. And we go up to this guy like, "What are you doing?" This real serious, and he's like, he's like stuttering. "I'm looking for coyotes." We're like, "Bro, get the F out of here.
Yeah.
Like now."
I mean, what kind of human being drives from Utah?
Well, and when I talked to Chase, the fireman in the Palisades, because I spent the whole day with him, he said the thing that really, out of everything they experienced, what hurt them or probably affected them the most was seeing the looters come in and take advantage of people who had just lost everything. It affected them psychologically, just knowing that part of humanity exists, and like who are those people, and like how are we producing them, and what is happening? Like, how do you do that? How do you go in when someone's lost everything
and then take more?
Yeah.
So, and I saw you in some of those social media videos, and you got that that
Oh, the ram?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I told.
Tackling this.
Yeah, her name is
Trying to
Vanessa.
help the ram.
Yeah, and she wants her story shared because it's an amazing story, and her name is Vanessa. Now she's called Sheep Mom, but so I go, listen, I'm right up the road now. I can have a way to get back in through the checkpoint. The fireman will let me through, or come get me rather. If you need anything, and then someone this awesome guy let her go move up to his church and stay there with her animals. And she goes, yeah, I'm going to need help capturing the 4 sheep and the 1 ram. And my brother-in-law used to have a ram, and they're not friendly, dude. They like, you'll be standing in the pen with them, and you have to have a bat or a stick because out of the blue, they'll charge you, take your knee out.
Wow.
So I asked two buddies.
He looked like he was burned too. A little
No,
bit,
he actually was not.
Okay.
He was just, they don't want to, they're just prey animals. So
Yeah.
anytime you try and corral them, they think it's death.
For sure.
And meanwhile, like we weren't hurting him at all. It was just like we had to get him out of there so they could go live somewhere safe. More importantly for herself and the kids. But I was I asked 2 of my buddies. They bailed on me, so I'm going to do this alone. Originally thinking, and I'm waiting for her. I can't find her, so I go back down to Fire Station 70, and I had this crew. They're a strike team from East LA. They roam. They're looking for spot fires, and they're like. They weren't like questioning me, like, what are you up to? They were just like, hey, man, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm trying to find Vanessa. These guys know her. She needs her sheep captured and with 1 ram and put in her horse trailer so she can move. And they're like, do you need help? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And thank God I said yes. Usually I say no, I got it myself. Because when it came time to capture the ram, dude, like it's on my social media at the real David Chokachi. Like, you'll see it, bro. Like, it was full on. And then and then he's like kicking, like, and I was behind him and I was like, he was just so I was super aware where he was like, I was like,
you just got your
fighting.
1 leg. 3 years to heal.
Well, no, I was really going to kick me in the,
Well, that would have.
I don't know what you say on your podcast, but he was going to kick me right in the sensitive area. So
You'd say anything.
I was just like, it was like really close to kicking me in the nuts, but I was really aware. So at one point you see me kind of like ole with my leg, like slide it back. But we got him on board. Then carrying the 2 of the sheep were pregnant, and that's no joke. And we're walking through all the debris. And you're like barely making it to our horse trailer. Even the firemen, bro, they was like, one of them had to put the sheep down. He's like, bro, I can't get back. I'm like, so it was, and then they were cool. They agreed to like escort us up to her new place, and then they left, and I helped her get set up, and yeah.
So, what pushes you every day to get up and go help like you've been doing? Because you had friends that even said, I don't know. I mean, I love that. I don't know. I'm an actor, and a dad, and I feel like I always want to train for life, like be ready, because I've realized one thing in Los Angeles, you cannot count on someone to come save you, right? Like right now, where our house is in LA, if you have a home invasion, and someone has a gun to your head, police won't be there for 2 hours. Wow.
So you better have some sort of training, or you better have something, like you better have a plan.
It's gotten bad.
It's that bad. It's that bad. And they just don't, it's not their fault. They don't have the resources.
Yeah.
And they're just, defund the police. That's a great idea. So
it's literally on the West, it's the wild, wild West.
It's bad. It's really bad. It's this neighborhood where our house is. We rent the one in Malibu, but our house is. I'm talking. I could probably over 50 house break-ins in the last 6 months, 8 months.
Oh my gosh!
And luckily, they time it so. They're not wanting to engage with a homeowner because they know that's escalation. Mm-hmm. Possibly they kill someone, so they watch. They're sitting, they're watching. They're watching your pattern, and then they know when you're gone, and they come, and they.
I guess it's like these guys. There's so many athletes. They know they're out playing football at a game.
Yeah.
So they go rob their house.
Yeah. It's Like they watched my neighbor.
Scary.
He pulled out at 7 p.m. He has it on his camera. They pulled in at 7:01. He has them running around their house all in. He had 1 million cameras trying to break through this. He's safe with everything. They smash your back window. They run in there. They are able to. Like, they can buy stuff off of Amazon to like pause the alarm response. It's crazy. So, I don't know. I've just been. I mentally, I stay in that. I like it. I'm drawn to it. I want to help people. I want to be able to protect my family because I have a daughter, and my worst case scenario would be something happening and me not being either in shape enough because I'm being lazy, or have any skills, self-defense, or weapons with training, whatever it is. That's on you as a dad. I heard this crazy story, and this is true. There's these two guys who used to be like spec ops guys, went into basically tracking or capturing human traffic or child abductors. I'm sorry, child abductors. And they got two of them to confess. You can hear the guy confessing, and so the guy's spilling the beans, everything, and they go, "How do you target the child? What is your like thought process?" And the guy goes, "Well, I look at the dad. If he looks like a threat, I'll move on to the next family, whatever kid.
Jesus.
If he looks weak, that's a family, that's a kid I'm going to go after." But he looks at the dad, his physical stature, his presence, how he carries himself. I saw that, dude. I went to the gym that night. I'm like, come on, baby.
Yes.
But
and you have a young daughter, so.
Yeah. But back to the fires, also, animals were a big concern. And I've been working with Best Friends Animal Society for 24 years, basically as an ambassador kind of for them. I have a great relationship with them, with Francis Batista. He's one of the founders. They've done amazing things. They took in one of our dogs who was born with a degenerative disc and had an unfortunate accident, and she became paralyzed and incontinent. And we tried for a year to all kinds of Eastern medicine, everything, and we were just like, what are we going to do? Because our life, all of a sudden, we couldn't go anywhere. She had to wear diapers. It was not a pleasant life for her. I could tell. I could see in her eyes. And and Francis Best Friends tried to help initially, but they're like, we don't really have something like that at this moment. But they didn't have the space. They hadn't had a dog like that yet. And then literally at the 11th hour before, we're like, we have to, because it was costing us so much money, we had to get help. And the quality of life was just, you need someone who's like going to commit to commit to the dog. And we have a daughter also who's like now staying at home on weekends, not doing anything. And not that it taught her a good lesson, but we just had to make a adult decision. Like, what are we going to do here? And Francis, Best Friends Animal Society, calls. He goes, "We have a spot for Bodhi."
Wow.
So
nice.
it kills it. So, sorry.
No, when you care so much about this being that's given you so much.
Yeah. Anyway, so I drove out to Kanab and to Utah, where they have the sanctuary, and they took her in, and I spent 3 days with her and cruised around there. If you haven't been there to the sanctuary, it's 3,300 acres, and it's like the best rehab facility. They took all Michael Vick's fighting the pit bulls.
Yeah.
Did you know that story?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they rehabbed like 21 and out of the 24 and put them in homes.
Wow.
But
now, was your daughter close to this?
Yeah, we were.
That's tough, yeah.
Yeah, this dog, like, I'd go surfing, and she'd sit on the steps, and she'd cruise around, and then she'd sit on the steps and wait for me, and everybody's wearing a wetsuit. Everybody looks like the same, all the guys when they come out of the water, and she would know when it's me. It was crazy. So 8 guys would come out in black wetsuits. She wouldn't move. And then she sees like me, but she can't see, like, it's probably 70 yards, but for some reason, something about it. I don't know what dogs like the vibe, but she comes sprinting down. I was like,
wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there's that unconditional love, that thing that they do for us is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when somebody does that for you too, to make sure that she's going to have a life.
Which is amazing. Yeah, it was just awesome. And then, so when they reached out and just said, "Hey, would you want to come help on one of these flight transportations?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is I love being around dogs." And to actually, because all during the fires, it was just negative. It was people like, we were losing things. Just you're getting bombarded with
being lost.
Yeah. I mean, it's nonstop. And what they're finding now, like, not only that remain people who are displaced. I mean, we actually have a family staying in our house in LA because they lost their house in the Palisades, and she looked up from where she was working in the Palisades, saw the smoke plume, tried to get to her house because they have two dogs, 2 cats. She couldn't even get within, they turned her around and said, "There's no way, it's already on fire."
And this was a matter of minutes.
7 minutes.
Wow.
But by the time she saw the plume of smoke and she tried to get there, so they lost their 2 dogs and 2 cats in the fire. But what's happened with a lot of people is they're living in places that either don't take animals at all, or they don't take a lot of them are breed specific. They won't take a German Shepherd, a pit mix, you name it, for very uneducated reasons. Like,
Oh yeah, they look at this completely wrong with pit bulls.
Yeah, luckily that's changing, because Angel City Pits was a group I worked with, and they said the stigma is finally being changed and lifted. I used to walk our first rescue, a pit mix, down the street in Malibu. People would cross the street to get away from me.
Wow.
I'm like, do you realize, like, these are called, like, they're a babysitter dog in England. Like, that's what they are, and they're such amazing animals. But so I got to I end up doing like 8 flights, helping best friends, and you get to go to the shelter.
It's also Wings of Rescue.
Yeah, and Wings of Rescue,
actually
which
does the flights.
Yeah, that was the first time I got to meet them. So the first day I get there, and I brought my daughter on 2 of them, which was great for her to see. And I get there, and you're carrying the dogs out of the crates, or some of the times you would actually go to the shelter, so you load them in the crates, then transport them, and they fly out of the private airports because they have a smaller plane and access right onto the tarmac. And Wings of Rescue is just amazing. So this is the first time I meet Rick, right? So after we're done carrying the crates, and I grew up working construction, so and when you're on a construction crew in New England, dude, you gotta carry your weight or you'll get called out. It's like being on a SEAL team and jogging when they're sprinting.
Wow.
Like if you, it's just the way it is. It's New England mentality and like work ethic. My mom taught me, like, we worked. Like weekends, my dad was like, "You boys aren't going to the beach. You have work to do." That was every weekend in high school. And by 4 p.m., my buddies would be like, all right, he'd be like, "Okay, boys, you're done." He's like, but they're like gone home. Like, but in the net result
stuff in you.
Yeah, because I can outwork anyone, dude, pretty much. I mean, not anyone, but I can grind. And so Rick was like, "Hey, I need someone strong and fast," because he's like time and efficiency, because it's hot. Like in the beginning of the transports, it was really hot. It was cold at night. It was like desert. So, but during the day in Burbank, it was like 90. So like the dogs were in their crates. They have a long flight. They're stressed.
Keep them there long.
You've got to move. You've done 2 of these flights. He's like, "I need someone who's like," and I'm like, I'm your guy, bro. I get up there and I just head down. I'm just pushing, 80-pound dog inside a crate. That's the dog's moving. And you're stacking 3 giant crates side by side.
They have water too.
Yeah.
To get them.
Yeah, of course. And then you're putting 3 on top. And you're filling in as you go, and then you got to balance the plane weight wise, and that's Rick's job. Like
the amazing thing is it's like a puzzle.
Yeah,
trying to fit all these different size containers to fit that airplane.
Yeah,
and pack as many as you can on there.
And it's got to be
got this thing down.
Yeah, and he's like he's working with a pilot because it's got to be balanced. Like if there's too many heavy dogs in the back, it's not going to take, like, the tail's going to dry. Like, it's like real, like,
Oh yeah, no.
they're a tight operation, Wings of Rescue.
Yeah.
I was so impressed. And anyway, he just saw like how I worked, and then, like, you said cargo netting every 6 feet, and I was like, the pilot showed me how to do it once, and then I was like, I just started doing it automatically. I don't need to be told twice, and I know I can work with my hands. And I think Rick in the back of his mind just kept sawing me, like, just work without questioning anything. And then by the end of it, I was dripping sweat. And he goes up to the best friends people after. He's like, hey, this guy, like, if you want to quit your acting job and come work for me, like, I'm not kidding you, like, any day of the week. And I did, I think, 7 more flights after that. And
That's so
anytime awesome. Rick was there, he'd be like, he's got a lot on his mind, obviously. It's a lot. Do
you know who he is? Where he came from?
No.
Oh my God, it's even crazier. But go ahead and finish your story.
Okay, wow. I just know him from Rick, like, this amazing logistical planner and, like, animal. Like, anyway, he would be, and then he'd see me, like, right before it's time to, like, load, like, do the go inside the cargo area, and they'd be like, David, will you please? I'm like, yeah, bro, you don't have to ask. And I got to go in and do all of them on the inside.
But what they don't understand is what that does for you.
Yeah.
It gives us, it's just so inspiring.
Yeah.
And it's life-changing to do that.
Yeah.
And I would just tell anyone, if you got a chance to do that, to be part of a rescue, to be part of a transport, it is so that you just exhilarating.
Yeah.
And it just fills every box you want to ever check in your life.
Every time even though the LA was still on fire and burning and people were a disaster, I had a feeling of wellness.
Yes.
And even my daughter, she helped carry crates, but she couldn't do that much more after that. But for her, like, I told her, she's great with dogs. We've had a dog her entire life. Right. I was like, just, you can reassure the dogs in between while they're on the tarmac, just talk to them. And she would spend the whole time. And even me, when every dog I pushed, I'd be like, you're going to be okay. I love you. You're going to be okay. I love you. You're okay. Yeah.
No, that's just the best. My boys were the same way. I
that's
took
awesome.
them on some of these transports, and they've been around rescue since they were babies, so they never had a choice. But when you see your daughter doing that kind of thing, nothing feels better as a dad.
Yeah. Because
it's truly amazing.
Yeah, because then they have that feeling of, like, okay, this is what it means to help someone else, to help an animal, and then there is no better feeling.
There's no better feeling.
Because some people realize, like, when you help someone else, you're helping yourself actually, like, 10 times more.
Yeah.
So, and for animals, I mean, like, I think you and I said this to you on the phone when we first talked. I'm like, I prefer dogs over most human beings.
Please?
Like, and I'm not, it's not all, but just most. Of course. There's just,
we were talking about Rick, because he came from the rock and roll world. I mean, hardcore rock and roll. He played in bands. He was big time bands, and he managed, and he was in this wild world of rock and roll music. He was touring all over the world, and then he got involved in this and just quit it all.
No way.
Yeah. You would never imagine this guy was this rock and roller.
That's interesting.
It's so fascinating. But
oh my God.
I'll send you some stuff on him, so you'll have to.
I could see how, once you start doing this, it's infectious. Like,
it really is.
Because, it's a lot of work, and it's like, but it's at the same time you realize you're making a difference in the world. Like, you're what we're doing tomorrow with them is amazing. Should we talk about that real quick?
Yes,
and then we can move on to, like, the other stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So out of the blue, like, I had always said to them, like, hey, if there's just pat, like, if there's ever a chance to come actually on a transport on the plane, I'd love to. Thinking I'd be flying out of Burbank on some short run.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, Cassie, who works for them in their marketing for Wings of Rescue, she reaches out and she goes, hey, would you be interested in doing an actual, like, being, on the plane with the dogs and the pilots after the loading and everything? And I was like, heck yeah. And then, so it goes further and further, and then it finds out, so she tells me, we actually flying out of, so she flew me down here. They flew me to Houston. I just got here like 2 hours ago and came over here. But the flight's originating out of Houston. There's 2 planes. It's, I think 122 dogs, but tomorrow they'll be transporting their 77,000th pet to safety
nuts.
And to potential foster home. Or like
Not
fostering or
potentially,
adoption.
will be fostered and find
basically.
their forever home.
Yeah.
Truly.
Which is because I guess, and also the Humane Society, and I guess is it Dallas or Texas, but it's a collaboration with Wings of Rescue. They're obviously a part of it. They've been a big part of this, so I don't want to overlook or not mention that.
I think it's the North Texas Humane Society.
Yeah.
And people, you don't even understand the logistics that it takes to pull this off. And the infrastructure, because not only do you have to get the animals, and this is the interesting thing, I've learned so much because I've been doing some of these transports, is every one of them has to be, you have to tag it, you have to know who's in that thing, there's a picture and everything on the dog, and because there's so many other people picking these dogs up when you land, you have to know who goes with who, and then when you transport across state lines, there's a lot of legal stuff that goes down. And so, and especially even out of the country.
Yep.
And so it's fascinating. They have it down to a science, actually. And it's pretty cool how they do these operations. But, I mean, we did one all the way in the Bahamas and flew them somewhere in, like, upper state New York or New Jersey. And, but coordinating on both ends, making sure I'm going to land with 150 dogs and cats, and we got to have somewhere for them to go. And I remember we did another one to Nova Scotia, Canada. Yeah. And we flew, it was like 8-hour flight. And get ready, you're going to be in this little jump seat, man.
Yeah, dude, we're going from whatever, the airport here, and then we're going, there's 2 planes. Yeah. And so that one dog is like I have a picture. I don't know if you put stuff in your notes in your podcast, but
we sure will.
It's this little pit puppy mix, but he's beautiful. Like he's probably adopted already, but I guess the reason they're calling this is an emergency transport because there's the shelters here are just like LA. They're just slammed, overcrowded, which means is not good.
We got to move these pets.
So
there's so many people up north.
Yeah, who have shelter space.
Want to adopt too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same in LA. People will go buy a purebred when there's when I just saw ridiculous. I don't know how many dogs I would take home. I'm like every day I went home with 8 dogs in my mind. Like that I would love for the rest of my life. And so it's so amazing that even people around the country have been like receptive and like, how do we help the people from these fires and they're showing up. Like there was a line to like get into some, like to foster or adopt some of these fire dogs. These are just overcrowded shelters, but
in Texas.
People don't realize when you're talking overcrowded, that means like 2 dogs in a small kennel, less care, less everything. So it's really just not a good situation. So other rescues or shelters, when they have space, the coordination between rescues, shelters, humane societies, Wings of Rescue, volunteers, everybody that collaborates on this, it's so effective. And so they alleviate that pressure. And now the dogs that stay behind can actually get proper care and probably flourish and then have a better chance of getting adopted because now they're starting to look healthy. It's just amazing. So we're flying. I'm not sure. My plane goes from here to Maryland, and then we drop off half the dogs, and then up to Augusta, Maine, and drop off the rest. So it's a long flight in that plane, bro.
Oh yeah, no, but it's a special experience. And I remember flying into Nova Scotia, and we come around, and where we came around, there was because it's a smaller airport, right? Yeah. And on the tarmac, there was, or right off the tarmac, but there was a line of probably 50 cars and families lined up waiting for their dogs. And it was so emotional.
Like they had already
oh my God, yes.
Or pre-adopted.
Yes.
Or
they pre-adopted. They already been cleared by whatever adoption group, right? And then there were adoption groups there too, because there were so many dogs. But just to see that, and they're cheering when you drive up and watching, because you know these families' lives are going to be changed from bringing this little animal. And this little animal that came from like deep, dark, we're in like southern Georgia where these dogs were, on chains and in horrible conditions. Right. And now they're going to live this amazing life.
Oh my
gosh. With a little family and little kids loving on them. It just brings you to tears.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty powerful. I want to bring up one quick thing, because you were talking about, Mike Vick and that whole thing. And I remember, so I have a lot of athlete friends. We do a lot of charities, right?
Yeah.
And you do this thing, and you're always with you're with athletes and all kinds of different people to help raise money, and so I have a lot of athlete friends, and I'm started to the rescue, and we're in our first season, and one of these big friends of mine comes over, and he goes and he starts crying, and he goes, this is a 270-pound man, right? Big dude from, actually it was like from Louisiana, and he said, Tommy, where I grew up, and I'm embarrassed to say, but I have 15 friends, and we had dog fights. That was a thing, and we've done this for 20 years, and it's just been part of our culture that this thing went on. And I'm looking at him, and I'm going, okay, where are we going with this?
Right.
And he's bawling to me at this point. And he goes, and I've been able to, your show has changed me. And
dude, knuckles on that.
He said, I've got half the guys have quit. They see the problem here. And he goes, I'm going to get the rest of them to stop this. But
wow,
it was so inspiring, that moment, that, that we can make a change in people.
Oh man, good. That's amazing.
And then we were on one rescue with Kathy Bissell Pet Foundation in southeast Arkansas, and there are gangs that do dog fighting.
Yeah,
and they're doing drive-bys. This woman's shelter, like shooting out the windows and because she's trying to stop the dog fighting, right? And trying to rescue these dogs, and you're going, it's just frightening how much of that goes on. But the power of these lovable animals, I can't tell you how many times that we've had to rescue these dogs that have been just cast aside because they've been just torn up. Other pit bulls, right?
Yeah.
And they've been thrown in these horrible situations. And these dogs that can just crawl, they're just bloody messes, when we show up, and they just crawl into your lap because they should hate us.
Yeah.
For putting them through that. But they just want to be loved on.
Isn't that amazing?
And you go, man, this is humanity. It's best, these beings that will give anything for us, and they're not mad at.
Isn't that crazy? But yet we judge each other by our skin color or whatever our belief is. But they after being, they can't decipher between, here's the dog fighting guy who owned me, and here's you, the good guy saving me. Yeah. But still, they'll accept your love.
I mean, I've had dogs that have been shot, and we get them, and they should be, point blank with a shotgun, and they should hate me. I didn't shoot them, but
right?
They should
no,
hate
I know.
mankind.
No, I know.
But no, they just want to be loved on, and they just want to hug you and love you.
Wow.
And that kind of stuff, the power of that will change a human being. And we should learn something from that.
Yeah,
right?
Because also the power of a dog can heal a human being. They can heal kids. They can heal depression, anxiety, PTSD, everything. Like, you get a dog. If you're depressed, get a dog. If you have anxiety, get a dog. All of a sudden, you have something to focus on, take care of, get out of your own head, and now you're feeling good. And then you see this thing in the morning, just like, who loves you.
Yes.
And you're like, it changes your brain chemistry, so.
And if you have kids, you want that dog too, especially with these cell phones, right? Social media. Yeah, no, it's a solution to problems.
Definitely.
For teenagers, right?
100%. Because then, it's like, all right, get off your phone, go walk Trooper. Trooper's our dog name.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, go walk him. Don't give me in. He's like, go throw the ball for him. Get going. Like, don't even think about it.
That's right. Because truly, Trooper's going to be there when she can't talk to mom or dad.
Yeah.
But she can talk to Trooper.
Oh, yeah.
And Trooper's going to love on her. Trooper doesn't care what, Trooper just wants to say, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wag that tail. Get me.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
How many times when you got out of that ocean and you're walking and that dog's tail's wagging and running to get you? What is that like? You're going, oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Every morning, this dog is happy. He's a parvo survivor, too. He was like magic that he lived.
Yes.
And he's, you can tell, like when you rescue a rescue, there's a difference between, because I grew up, my parents had German Shepherds that were from a breeder. My parents my mom's 84, not old, but she still says she's 39, or maybe she's moved.
Go, Mom, go.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, Mom, we love you.
Yeah, she's awesome. But those dogs, they don't, and I think it's the fact that they've come from, like, they're purebred, but they have more problems. A lot of them had tons of health problems because they're within their own breed. You get a mix, a rescue, they've got all different.
Oh yeah.
They live way longer, and also the love. They know you have saved them from something. Like, even if you get them as a puppy, like our first pit mix was, she was scared. She'd been broken. They found her in downtown LA. She had a chain around her neck, and she was scared of little kids. Anytime they came to our house, our dog would run in the corner and pee. So obviously she was probably abused by little kids, probably kicking her or something. So, but she got over that and was fine with little kids, totally fine. My daughter, who was a baby, like when Cammie was whatever, like 8, like was the most amazing, like never anything like, oh my God, that pit, like she just loved on her. Like, but they're just, there's so much. They give us so much, so we got to try and give them as much as possible. So I applaud you for all you do, brother. That's amazing.
Oh,
and because one thing I don't think the country, the people of this country or the world, I don't think they're aware of the positives, the news media, where the crap we're fed is just one negative thing after another, when meanwhile, there's all these beautiful success stories like what you're doing, your show, or what Wings of Rescue, Pause for Life, Angel City Pits, Best Friends. Like, if they started to focus, you got to go on the podcast to get the truth now also. Like,
for sure.
Otherwise you're getting biased news or you're getting fake news or something. You're not getting the truth, that's for sure.
Well, they're thinking they have to sell something.
Yeah.
So they're
selling whatever. Yeah. They're selling that whatever.
They need ratings. So they're going to, like, what's the hot thing I can talk about?
And like trying to pitch this story to CNN. Actually, the news has picked up on it. And the fact that this one dog is going to be the 77,000th dog is like, there's a ton of press around it. And Cassie from Wings of Rescue said, there's a ton of media, which is amazing because even from just posting on Instagram and stuff from the flights I did, people were like, wow, I didn't know about that. I want to help. Yeah. Like, I can tell you, like, all my actor friends were like, dude, how do I come help and transport? So now, like, there's an army of people who want to come help. And that's just a small little slice of it. So I think if more people are made aware of, like, how they can help, or that there's organizations or there's things you can go do, it needs to be brought to the light.
I agree.
And thank you for what you're doing for bringing it to the light, on your platforms.
Just trying to do what little bit we can, because they do for me.
Yeah.
I just want I want everybody to feel that.
Yeah.
I want everybody to feel that love.
Yeah.
I come home at night, right? My kids, when they were young, used to run to meet me.
Yeah.
They're off doing something else. But my dog is always there.
That's where I'm at now. My daughter's 13. She doesn't come. She's in her room. She doesn't even say hi. My dog, he's sprinting towards me. He's like,
yes.
What are we doing?
We're
going to the beach?
I want to touch on, too, because we came, I know that we have a schedule and an early call tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But, as a young actor, tell me about your journey to Hollywood, and did you have to do the dozens of auditions a week? Tell me how you got to Hollywood.
So, I mean, Okay, I went to I grew up in New England. I grew up in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I ended up going to Tabor Academy. The public school in Plymouth at the time was so overcrowded. They had to do double sessions. So some kids went to school from 6 a.m. to noon. The other kids went from noon to. So my parents, luckily enough, I got to go to this school. But the great thing about Tabor, where I went, was you had to play sports. You had to pick a sport, fall, winter, spring. You weren't allowed to or you could be, I guess, in the theater club, but you could not just say, "Oh, I'm not doing anything." It was like part of their deal. Mm-hmm. It's a great school. So I had grown up playing Pop Warner football. My mom was like, my dad was gone all the time at work. My mom raised us, and she was like, "You kids are not going to be in trouble because you're not going to have time to get in trouble. You're going to be too busy playing sports." So I played football, I wrestled, and I played lacrosse, and then I did the same in college. But growing up, even where I'm from, I had a fascination like you with making movies. We'd make Miami Vice ripoffs, like with The Flower Was Cocaine, and when my parents left, would take my sister's car. She had like an IROC, and would be doing just burnouts, and there was no camera with music, so it would have the camera rolling and someone would hit play on the boombox thing.
Yeah.
So there'd be music starting the scene, and then the lights would flip on. Someone would hit the lights.
But and what kind of camera did they have? VHS?
There was VHS. It was my dad's.
8?
Yeah, it was my dad's. It was my dad's VHS thing. But it was, and so I had a fascination for it. But when playing sports, you couldn't do both. Even in college, I went to Bates. It's Division III football still, but it runs still Thanksgiving. You go back 2 weeks early. And I played lacrosse, which starts right after you go back after the holidays. And it never seemed like a reality to me. It just seemed like, yeah, God, I would love to do that. But it just, where I come from, it's like there was no success story. There's one guy who had all this classical training, and the most he got was two lines in a Matthew Modine that sailing movie Winds or something.
Yeah.
And he was the only guy. There was most people have if you go to USC, you have 1,000 hookups.
Oh,
where
sure.
I came from, I had 2 hookups. This one dude who had come back to Plymouth and gave me no advice. I mean, I appreciate just talking to him. I was like, wow, really? Okay. And then the other one was when I moved.
wanted to be an actor.
Yeah. Yeah, so after I graduated from college, I worked for a congressman in D.C. for a little bit because I was thinking about applying to environmental studies, and he was chairman of a subcommittee on wildlife and fisheries. And then after I did that stint, I was back working construction, about to take the test for environmental law schools or environmental studies schools, not law. And I saw an ad for they were looking for models for athletic wear in Boston. I ended up going to do that. I walked in, I got some jobs with Reebok right away. They sent me on a commercial audition to this famous casting agency called Collins and Pickman in Cambridge, which is still there. They cast a bunch of movies still, and I ended up booking a beer commercial right out of the gate, first time. They're like, that never happens to me. David, that never happens. You should study. You should do this. So I was like, really? So I started studying with them, and then I started modeling on the side while I'm working construction. And then I just kept kind of rolling with it. I tried it in New York City. It was too much of a zoo. I felt just lost. I'd always wanted to live in LA. I convinced my parents. I'm going to go try this. And the only connection I had was a buddy's floor to sleep on. And then my dad's colleague's brother was teaching acting class in the Valley. And that was it. I had no other connections to the business.
Yeah.
But I was able, from the modeling and the commercial or the small stuff I had done in New England, I was able to set myself up with an agency called Hero. And they had a small theatrical division. So it was a modeling agency that would send you on commercials and small theatrical. But I arrived in LA Saturday night. It was January 14th, 15th of 2 days before the Northridge earthquake.
Oh my God.
So
You go, what have I done?
And real quick, this is crazy. So have you ever seen Shortcuts, the Robert Altman movie?
Oh yeah, sure.
So in that movie, there's a giant earthquake in the story. Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sunday night, it's my buddy's brother. He lives on Larrabee off Sunset above the Viper Room. That's where I was living, on his floor. And Sunday night, before the earthquake, we go see Shortcuts. It's the 10 o'clock showing. So in the movie, I'm like, shit, imagine if that ever happened. Go to bed at like 1 a.m. 2.5 hours later, I'm sleeping on the floor below his entertainment center. The thing is, the glass is going like this, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, what? I was so surreal. I get up to run, like just to run to like, he's not moving. He was so stoned. I wasn't anything. I was there to work. I was all excited about being an actor. He was just, the floor like dropped out from under me. And like I just fell on my face, got up, got him like moving. I'm like, dude, let's get out of here, bro. I know you're not supposed to run, but this was like, and then as soon as we go to run, we're on the second floor. Like, do you see the transformer right outside his window just explode? Wow. And then once we got out on the Larrabee, you could see like down across LA, and it was like boom, 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 and then black. And so that's how I started. And then, but what I did, and what a lot of people don't do and don't realize, you've got to make money to survive while you pursue your dream. And
for sure,
luckily I had a construction background. A friend of my brother-in-law's worked for FEMA. He happened to be out there, like deployed out there for FEMA. He's like, David, do you want to go make it was like $150? You can go, all you have to do is go inspect in chimneys in Northridge. You take an old iPad, blah, blah. Wow. So I did that for 6 months because the business was shut down.
Sure.
So I worked for him. And then right after that, the city started to come together. Things happened. I started studying with that guy in the Valley, which was hilarious, but he was amazing. He gave me my first,
see, that's good.
First, kind of acting lessons. Even though I started at college in Pigment, but it was like the LA vibe.
Right.
But and then I moved into an apartment in Brentwood, a very seedy apartment, mind you, but it's like right near this
area.
It is, but they're right across from the Veterans Building. There are these seedy apartments, but you're still part of, you can still walk to the nice.
Them because I lived in Brentwood for a while.
You did? It was called Chai-Sai Apartments.
I didn't live there. But.
Yeah, but it was like close enough. I don't know how we had picked it, but at this point, a buddy of mine had joined me, and so. But I'm walking up the stairs, moving into this dump, and there's a guy renovating it, and I go, "Hey man, if you ever need someone to swing a hammer, I'm really good." He's like, "Yeah, whatever." And next day, knocks on my door at 7 a.m. He's like, "You want to go to work?"
Wow.
Yes. I put my whatever clothes I had, and got a tool belt from him. I worked for him up until I got Baywatch. And even after that little small agency I had got me the audition
for Baywatch
to replace the new young lead. And at that time I was studying with this coach. What's his name? He was this older guy. He trained like Bill Pullman. Michael Biehn trained with him. Oh my God. Vincent Chase.
Were you doing auditioning?
There wasn't much. Mostly commercials.
Really?
I wasn't really ready for it. So it wasn't and I had done some stupid stuff in between. I don't even know what it was.
We have to because you do anything.
Like industrial or what were they called? Corporate, anything to learn how to be on a set.
Yeah.
But and then commercials, but I got the audition for Baywatch, and then I worked with this coach privately on the side because I was like, whoa, this is actually they've been looking for this guy for months. They couldn't find the guy. The writers had someone very specific in mind. He was supposed to be from the Midwest. You had to be a really good swimmer because you were portraying an Olympic hopeful swimmer. So there was things going into it that you couldn't fake. So I walk into the audition. One thing I knew is I always stayed in shape in my life. That's part of if you want to be successful in life, get in shape. Because not only do people, it doesn't matter what you look like, but if you're in shape, people will notice that you're in shape. That's a guy I want to be around. Because it shows you have discipline. It shows you're probably going to bed. You're probably not partying. You're probably eating pretty well. You know what I mean? So I stayed in shape because I grew up playing sports, and that was a part of the culture. And then I took it to the next level because when I was modeling and for various things, the more ripped you were, you got more work.
That's right.
And this parlayed into Baywatch. So when I got on Baywatch, but first when I got the gig, they go, you got it. After 5 auditions, a swim test, because they got burnt on an actor who was afraid of the sharks. They had to hire a stunt woman. So anytime they called action for a rescue, she'd run up to the water's edge, cut, bring in the stunt woman, rescue.
Terrible.
Yeah. So you had to pass the swim test. And that's where I convinced this one executive producer. He's like, okay. And they had media, they had Entertainment Tonight there filming this, because it was me and the new girl replacing. Oh, so when I walked in the door for the first time, the casting agents they were tired. They were over it. They were like beat down. They were like kind of looking down. I walk in the door and they look up and they're like, holy shit.
That's the guy.
You're the guy. I hadn't said one word.
Wow.
Because they knew what the writer or creators
Yeah, they
had
knew
in
what
mind.
they were looking for.
They go, you are we've looked at 1,000 guys all over the country. They have someone very specific in mind. They are like, we hope you can act. And I was like, oh, geez.
There's a little pressure.
Anyway, I pulled it off. But when I got
All right, so who was the first person you called when you got
I'd probably call my mom, I think. Yeah, because she was like, and then my dad, because they were both skeptical about the whole thing. Like, how long are you going to keep trying this? Especially my dad. He's like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But when I got the call, it was like, you got it. But then the second sentence was, okay, they're only going to guarantee you, I think it was like 6 out of 22, with the potential to do all 22 out of 22 if you perform. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a lot of pressure then, because like, but I was again like it goes back to like marketing, like what you're pushing, and like how do you market yourself? I realized real quickly, I knew what the show was about. So they teamed me up with Mike Newman, who was one of the cast members who's since passed away, but he was a good friend of mine. But he did all the lifeguard training for the actors, and I did like triple training with him, so I knew everything. I had already known how to drive boats, because before I started construction, I taught sailing. I raced competitively, like sailboats, and then I became so I knew all about boats. I could drive the big long speedboats into like Venice Pier at high speed. Like they would only let me and Mike Newman do it on camera and no one else. Also, like wave runners, like when you're doing a rescue,
being prepared is so important in any job you do.
Yeah, and
you walk in that door, have that confidence, right?
Yeah, and then they saw my skill set, and then they saw how fit I was, and they wrote more episodes. So instead of me doing 6 and saying goodbye, I ended up doing 19 out of 22. And not only that,
awesome.
After that first season, they go, at the beginning of the next season, they gave me the option. They go, who do you want as your girlfriend on the show, Pam or Yasmin? Pamela Anderson or Yasmin Bleed. And I loved both of them. Yasmin
you couldn't go wrong with either.
I mean, no, they're both amazing. But I was like, okay, probably the smarter business decision, like, would be to go with Pam, because she's just like. But Yasmin was amazing too. But
that's so.
But that's
funny
how much,
they gave
because
you the option. Probably a tip people haven't heard about. You got to make that choice.
Yes.
Wow.
There was a straight question: which one do you want to pick? And I was like, yeah, Pam. Because we had a lot of similarities too. Like we were she was married to Tommy at the time, but her and I were very like, we had a good rapport. We liked to very self-deprecating and had a lot of fun. She had a great sense of humor, but
not too caught up in yourselves.
No, not at all. I mean, she had her own world, and I wasn't looking to jump into her things at all. Like but we had fun when we were on set. But yeah, being like staying in shape. So it would be, you'd work on set and everybody's like, oh, you're on Baywatch. How easy is that? Like, but you're in the sun doing rescues for 10 hours a day. You start at 6 a.m. and then in order to maintain that discipline of being in shape, because I wanted to blow this up. I wanted my character to explode. I would go home. I'd go to the gym. Then I'd go see my acting coach, and I would just do that day after day after
Discipline.
day. And I ended up getting asked to be in People's Most 50 Beautiful magazine, like one of their issues one year, which is like a big thing that's still, how many years, like 24 years later, follows me around. People still say, and you were in People's 50 Most Beautiful. Wow. And it's like a little club.
I gotta find that magazine.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is on the cover. But it was cool. I mean, it was like a big thing, and it just
huge thing.
It was having that work ethic that my parents instilled in me, and then just and also being smart enough. I didn't buy into the hype of like a lot of actors like bought new cars and bought homes. We weren't making that kind of money on that show. Like, let me tell you, they thought their formula was, you're on the most famous show in the world. It's being watched by 1.1 billion people a week when there was only 5.6 billion people on the planet.
Wow.
So they felt you could, besides, they paid David and Pam, they made bank, but everybody else was getting we were getting
scale
peanuts. Like you could literally but and it was true. I'd get these offers. Like I got a crazy offer to go to Argentina to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award, even though I was like 28. And they paid me a bunch of cash just to go down there and do that. So there were ways to make money. So that was true. But it was having the awareness and also not buying into the hype of like, I'm better. And then a lot of actors left the show after 1 year thinking, I'm going to be a movie star. And they ended up never working again.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not getting rid of this. This gig.
How long were you on the show?
I stayed for I was at a 5-year contract, and I did 4 years, and then my 5th year they were moving the show either to Hawaii or Australia, and they hadn't decided. So even though like my character exploded after when I got on there, and especially like Pam and I's like our chemistry was amazing.
No, it was.
But after the 4th year, when they were undecided and they weren't sure, I asked one of the producers, can I go out on pilot season? I'm not saying I want to leave the show, but just can I go test it? And he basically took it really personally and said, we don't want any unhappy actors on the show, so thank you for everything you've done. And I ended up going on. I got a Jon Favreau pilot that was so good, but it was at the wrong network. It was at UPN, which it was about life in LA, and it was genius. Like Vince Vaughn came and did a cameo for us, like just to blow it up a little more. And then I got another series called Witchblade, which was probably the best crafted show. That was a critical hit for TNT and Warner Brothers. So my career, luckily, it was a blessing, because when the show moved to Hawaii, it didn't work. It was weird. Yeah. People want to see Southern California.
You weren't part of that failing piece.
No. I mean, as much as I wanted to be in Hawaii, I went on to do it. I did a series in Hawaii called Beyond the Break years later, which was all about surfing. But it was, Baywatch didn't work there. You would think it would work better. The water's more beautiful, everything. Even that show High Rescue, that John Wells show, I don't think it's doing that well, and it's based in Hawaii. And it's like, there's something about Southern California, beaches and oceans, pre-fires, that was just magical. And so
being prepared is the key here. And I remember my first movie ever. It was called A Texas Legend, but we shot it at the Hope Ranch in California.
Yeah.
It looked nothing like Texas. And what was fascinating, I'm going on day one, I think I had 2 lines in the movie, one day. But what worked so great is so much of it was on horseback, and all the actors had lied and said, "Oh, I ride horse." None of them knew how to ride a horse, and so I went from 1 day to 28 days on the picture.
That's
because
awesome.
Nobody knew how to ride. They go, just give Tommy the lines, and next thing you know, I'm training people how to ride, just like. What's the other actor's name that was teaching people how to do?
Mike Newman.
Yes. Mike. Yeah. Just like Mike, I'm teaching people, but being able to work on a film.
Yeah. And he ended up becoming a series regular.
Yeah.
They eventually were like, why? Let's make him a series regular. Like, he was awesome. But that's it. Like,
that was it. I knew I was prepared, at least, because I grew up in Texas and riding horses, and I knew how to ride. And it was a very, very cool. It was an Anthony Quinn
Oh
film.
My God, that's amazing.
And it was all kind of interesting stars. But I remember Anthony, Mr. Quinn, but he called him Anthony. He had this old Rolls Royce. I mean, old thing, but he loved it, and he would drive it to the set every day out on the ranch. And I remember he goes, "Come have lunch with me." And we had lunch in his Rolls. And he goes, "All right, kid, so I'm going to keep you around, because you're making this thing happen."
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's,
but the life lessons are, nothing's going to be given to you.
No.
You better be able to be prepared. You had a shot, to be on the biggest show on the planet.
Yeah.
But you were ready.
Luckily I was I was with Vincent Chase. When I started studying with him, it was like 4 nights a week, and then once on the weekends. It was like a lot. And he would run you through like a lot of to see your emotional range, and And I was just one. I would go for it. And he was like, "That's rare, David, to see someone kind of commit and like all of a sudden get emotional over like something I just asked you to do and in front of your class and like, keep doing this." And so, but it's having discipline and like, in today's world, like there's so many distractions.
How did you not get caught up in the Hollywood thing? You're on
I think
massive show. Did you get caught up in it for a while? How did you keep your head straight?
I to this day, like even my buddies who I played football with at Bates College in Maine, they're like, "Oh, Chokachi's going to change. He's going to be so we won't even be able to talk to him."
Hollywood.
They saw me, whatever, a couple of years after being on the show. They're like, "Holy crap, dude, you're the same guy. I can't believe it." And I haven't changed at all. Like if
you're
anything,
making out with Pamela Anderson.
I know.
On the show. Come on.
I know. They were like. I think growing up in New England helped. Growing up with parents who instilled in us work ethic and that was like no BS. There was no like, but can I do it late? And it's like, nah, not even close. Like get up. Like no sleeping in. Like there was real like we were taught like how to.
That's it. That work.
Work ethic. And I just don't. It's really what I see happening to kids out there. I don't see kids working at all.
Yeah,
they don't work. Like, as soon as I was tall enough to push a lawnmower, I think I was like 6th grade, my parents like went around to their like people they knew and said, "Can he mow your lawn for like," and I'm talking a giant football field. And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'll give him $5 for the entire yard." And looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I mowed that thing for $5. And this is the old school, no power, like hand mower. Right. But the kids don't work. And like my daughter's in junior lifeguard program, and I'm telling her now, I'm like, listen, I have say until you're 18 and you're going to stay in this program because you're going to realize what are you going to go do? Work at the Grove at like Sephora?
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of opportunities, or you've got to be very motivated to find the opportunities to work as a young person now.
She may not understand it today, but I promise you it won't be
because
long.
Even though the world of lifeguarding is an amazing, first of all, it's lifeguarding and the firefighters. So it's a pipeline. And once you've entered, you're automatically in. You don't have to retest at all until you actually, they call it the road to red, until you actually go for your real lifeguard test at the very end of your training, which is when you're 16. But I'm telling her, like, it's the best job in the world. You can pick your weekends. The pay is phenomenal. Like if you end up working, like, you can make as a state lifeguard, you can make like $60,000 a year. As a county lifeguard at age 18, you can make like up to like $80,000 if you took every shift you could.
So are you telling me that you were a Hollywood lifeguard on television, but you actually know how to do the thing?
To actually
you could lifeguard.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it wasn't a game.
No, I took so much training from Mike Newman that I could. Yeah, and I grew up swimming, and I grew up sailing and driving boats. So I knew what was up. Yeah. I could go out try out for the lifeguard test right now. I'd probably have to work a little bit on my swimming because instead of swimming, I surf all the time. So, but if it goes flat in the ocean, I swim.
So the amazing thing is that it was so important to you that this is the road you're putting your daughter on. You're saying, this is what's important.
Yeah.
Learn discipline.
Because guess what? When she was born, and I was like, I cannot wait for the moment when I can take her surfing.
Yeah.
So at Point Doom, there's this incredible like spot. There's point breaks. It's like 5 different point breaks, and at certain, I stand up surf, which is so I put her on the front of my board. We catch a wave and I pop her up, and she has a life jacket with a grab handle. So from age 3 until she could surf on her own, she was on the front of my board, and she like lets go. She just holds my shorts, leans back, grabs my shorts. I have this killer video on YouTube where her feet are already like feeling the board. So at age 3, she's felt that sensation, and there'd be days where there'd be like a 6-foot wave would come, and my wife's like, from the beach, or she's on her, she's like, don't, and I'm like, we're going, and we go, and like only once did we get wiped out bad. It wasn't that bad, but I had this summer, one of the girls, no, as a father, a British guy, he's a pretty good surfer, but he told me his daughter had gone through the junior lifeguard program, became a lifeguard. and they were in Hawaii like the year before, and he's a pretty good ocean. He's not a tribe, whatever, but he's very capable human being. He surfs. He'd just been caught in a riptide, and he was he hadn't eaten. It was hot. And next thing you know, he was trying to fight against it. Made a mistake. Next thing you know, his daughter sees this. He realizes he's like in real trouble now. Like he's like about to like drown. He swears. He's like, I was seconds from going under. Like I just all of a sudden, the heat, everything kind of collapsed in on him at once, and like the energy, he had nothing left in his like he hadn't eaten. His daughter saw it. She grabbed a surfboard, sprinted out there, flipped him onto the board.
Wow.
She's like, he goes, because she had taken junior lifeguarding, she saved my life. Wow. So not only as a junior lifeguard or becoming a lifeguard can you save your own life, but you can save a stranger's life. You can save your family. That is probably the most like amazing
just
thing.
Not being at work. You're
and there's a community. Like I watch these guys. So this is crazy. Then we can end on this as I know we're going long, but on day one, the guy who runs the cadets at Zuma Beach, the higher level kids training, there's two instructors. One of them is Greg Bonin. He is one of the original creators, executive producers of Baywatch.
Wow.
So he runs the program. He's the one who actually, you have to pass a swim test. You have to do 50 yards at age 9 under a minute 50 or something. And he had my daughter in his lane, and I'm like, I'm dying. I'm like, oh my, I was having panic attacks. Like, I'm like, she made it. He was so cool. And, but so the day I'm dropping her off the first day, I'm like, this is about as surreal as it gets. She's about to start training to become a real lifeguard with the guy who's oversees the program, who I worked with for 4 years. I'm still good friends with, who like created the most popular show in the world. And it's like the art imitating life moment was like, boom. I was like, it was like,
you had that smile, I'm sure, ear to ear.
I was like, this
so
is
proud of her.
And she went on, in the beginning, she wasn't that, she just wasn't that strong about, she was just, she had toughness, and she wasn't as strong as a lot of these kids who've grown up in Malibu. They've grown up swimming, or they're on water polo teams really young, and they can swim, run, do everything really fast, or paddle. She had been surfing, so she was a strong paddler, but she her first year, she won the most inspirational award. Wow. They're like, this girl she was never at the front of the pack, but she was never like, she just always gave it her all. And then like her second year of junior lifeguard, I think she won the most improved or something. Like really, and these are like, they don't hand these out lightly. It's not like 5 kids get an award. Right. It's like you got to earn these, and it was really cool. So,
and that just represents the parents.
Yeah.
Which you guys have done for,
and so when in the beginning of this year, they sit all the kids down, ages 9 through 15, 16, and all the parents are behind them on day one of junior lifeguarding. All the instructors at Zuma, and they're like, the whole speech, everything, and they're like, who here thinks they want to continue on the road to red, which means you're going to become a lifeguard, take the test. And some kids raise their hand, and I'm looking at my daughter's back, her back is to me, and she's not raising her hand. I'm like, thinking, you better raise your hand. And she turns just sideways enough to catch my energy, and she's like, I'm like, listen, there's a few things in life I'm going to demand of you.
Yes.
And this is one of them, that you follow through on this, because if you go to school in California, you have the best job in the world. I watch these guys. I'll go watch her. They show up at 10. I'm not saying it's easy. You're risking your life a lot of times to save someone else's.
Yeah.
Or whatever time they have to show up, whatever time their shift is. But half the time, there's no action. There's nobody in the water. So they work out. Their community of lifeguarding is awesome. They're always laughing. There's just and what people don't realize is, and I think a reason our society and the United States is failing in general is there's a lack of community. Like, you have to find your own tribe, Yeah. Like the beach I surf at, it's like there's a tribe of people who show up all the time. It's the same beach, the same people, same family, same guys, kids, and it's your little tribe. And it makes you feel good, like you belong. The lifeguard, so important. And there's that sense of community is really like, I didn't realize it until I was taken for 3 years, I couldn't go surf. I couldn't be a part of that community.
Yes.
And that was part of why I went into like a depression and darkness. I was like, and then when we went back and I was healthy enough to start surfing again, I was like, ice plunging was like the first thing that triggered was like, boom. I was like, wow, cold exposure triggered something inside me that had been flat for months.
Isn't that amazing, that one thing?
Yeah, but ice plunging like religiously 3 times a day, like torturing myself. And then brutal. I was like, boom.
I tried it.
Oh, I
can't do it.
I did it this morning at 4 in the morning before I got in my car and drive to the airport in the pouring rain.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, dude.
All right, I got to figure it out because apparently it's life-changing. I've heard that from several
It'll
people.
take you from your worst mood. You have the worst day. You go ice plunge. You'll come out with a smile on your face. It changes and it also, have you heard of this thing where you can actually grow a part of your mind that you can callous your mind to, you can grow mental toughness. You can develop mental toughness by doing things you don't want to do. Whether, like, so if you hate cold water, you go in the cold water. And you actually, they've studied this and proven that anything you don't want to do, you go do it, and you don't know it's happening. You can't just do it once. You got to do it.
Commit to it.
And then, but they also say by the time, like now I love ice plunging. But so now they said when you start to like it, it's not working anymore. So you got to find something else you hate.
And push
like
that
folding
envelope.
laundry.
All right, I told you guys, y'all, we're going to learn some great stuff today. But we're not forcing you with pencils under your fingernails. You got to learn some amazing things today from an incredible human being. And as we talked, and I'm going, God, there's so much that's so important about learning about respect and discipline. I think that's where so many people today, they go, I'm going to start a company. I'm going to start a business. They watch Shark Tank, and I'm going to have the yacht. And no, everything. I don't care what you do. It may look like these guys hit home runs right out of the gate, but no, that's 10 years down the road of working their butt off, being prepared. The reason David was successful is because he was committed and he was prepared. And it wasn't, yes, he got a shot at that audition, but it could have been over. Right? He signed for 4 episodes, but he worked on 19. Why? Because he committed to learning and working out and training. He wasn't, all these people are going, he's in Hollywood. I'm sure they're thinking he's partying, living the life. Oh my gosh. He was on the #1 show in the world. They're talking about not falling to the dark side, because people, I guarantee he could have had anything he wanted on the planet, anybody, but he had discipline. He went home and he trained and he worked out and he learned how to be a lifeguard, right? And that's why he had success. If you want to be successful in life, commit to it. You have to. You have to understand the importance of that dedication. It's not going to come easy. Nobody just yes, people hit the lottery. But I was doing a lottery show for E, and I got to tell you, everybody we tried to interview and tell their story, they were disaster stories. It wasn't hitting the lottery isn't the solution. The key is work hard, believe in yourself, and commit to it. If you want to be successful, it's all about that. And truly, some of the things that I heard that was so inspiring is a guy that gives himself, right, to humanity and to other people and to animals. And we talk about this a lot. If you do that, start by opening the door for someone and just feel how good that feels. And then just keep ratcheting that up. Earlier he was talking about, growing the mind, doing something you don't like and you keep doing it and it helps you mentally, right? Grow and be stronger. We'll do that. Just like being kind to people. It will grow in such a positive way and change your life. And I always say this, and it's because it's the most important thing in the world. We want to take care of our furry friends. Make sure when you come home, get down on one knee, eye level with that pup or that kitty cat, and look in their eyes, because it's so important. They want that eye contact. They want to know, because you're everything to them. They're just waiting for you to get there. They want to know that you love them, and that eye-to-eye contact is so important. So give it to them. and support your local shelters. Get your dogs and cats spayed and neutered. It's so important. We've got so many dogs out there. I'm going to be out there tomorrow with them. David's going on this amazing rescue. They're going to load up hundreds of animals onto these airplanes and taking them to their forever home. And, hearing him talk about that and watching that inspiration, and, it just, it's so special. And we're going to shoot some stuff out there. So you're going to be able to catch it on social media, and we're going to have some fun with it. But I want to thank you, David, so much,
thank you so
for
much.
being here.
Oh, what a brilliant, it's just fascinating. You touched on things that really move me, all parts of my life, things that are important to me, where I think, people can improve, how I found, people want the, real quick, I've seen, one thing they tried to do in Hollywood was like, okay, let's cast influencers as the lead in movies or TV shows. Dude, that backfired so badly. People think, I can be an actor, okay? If we took, I'm sorry, what's his name?
Scott.
Has Scott ever been on a movie or TV set?
Oh, many times.
Oh, okay. All right. So Scott's a bad example. I'm sorry, brother. People think they could just show up on a set and be an actor. Like, I could be an actor. And I'm always like,
how many hundreds of times have you heard that?
Yeah, and what they don't understand is, do you know how many times repetitions? First of all, classroom acting is not being on set. That you have 3 cameras going, 80 crew members. You have a schedule, a budget, people waiting on you. You don't have time. You get maybe 1 or 2 takes to get it right. You start screwing it up. You haven't memorized your lines. You're gone. Try hitting a mark without looking down while doing, like, carrying your coffee. Hey, Tommy, what's going on? I got to hit a mark right here so that light catches me.
That's right.
You miss that mark 3 times, the lighting guy goes, he's off, he's out of focus.
They don't have time for that.
They don't have time. That takes years of practice. That takes years.
That's right.
And when they started bringing these influencers who thought they could be actors overnight, it backfired so drastically. Nothing against what they do. I'm just saying it takes work.
Yes.
Anything.
Commitment, discipline.
And work is part of the journey. You got to enjoy the journey. Like, the suffering is part of it. You enjoy the suffering because, if you got to the top and you had everything, then what? You'd be like, well, this is kind of boring. But the journey is where it's at. You got to learn to enjoy the suffering. And realize, like, this is part of it. Like,
because you remember when you first got your first commercial.
Yeah, I was like, this
and
is
it was
insane.
like, yeah,
it was Sunny Delight. Well, no, first it was the beer commercial that we shot at Fenway Park, and I'm a Boston Red Sox fan.
Oh my god!
So I'm like doing this. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah, but you learn.
Yeah,
and then you go, okay, this is the pinnacle. I could die today, and it's okay. But then all of a sudden, one day, you're on the set in Malibu, doing the most popular show in the world. Did you take a minute to look around and go, okay, this is actually pretty freaking cool?
I mean, it took a few days before I got to that moment, I gotta tell you. But I also did extra work because I wanted to be on a set, which, I wanted to see how the set operates. Because if you haven't been on a set and you get cast in some big role and you're clumsy, you don't know which department to go, like. So if you I would go sign up to be, even in Boston before I moved to LA.
Yeah,
I did some movie. I don't know. I think it was Keith Carradine. It was when he was alive. But I remember. But I would just watch everything and just absorb it. And then you start to take those pieces. At least you know something about how a set is run.
That's right.
Because you can't just take someone off the street, say, show up tomorrow at 6 a.m., know your lines, and they'll be like, what planet did I land on? And then anyway, that was my segue.
Yeah, and when a camera's in your face and everybody's around and all this pressure is on you, okay, deliver. And you're going, oh, God, what were those lines? Wait a minute.
And also be real and be authentic.
And be real, that's right.
Like, good luck.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I feel like I'm actually at a point. I think that what's crazy about the 3 years of suffering I went through, I almost feel like I developed a mini superpower in the sense that there's something I gained, and there's lots of philosophers who have tested. There's a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way." Lots of people who have gone through long periods of suffering, and come out the other side, gained like a higher level or a higher version of themselves that they didn't even know they had.
Oh, I believe that's true.
That they did not, and that's what I feel like I attained. And I went and did a movie with this director I'd worked with 2 times before, the same DP. It was very challenging, emotional, all over the place, called Married Alive. But after one of the scenes where I'm telling my son, who we had witnessed, I had witnessed as a young man, my girlfriend was pregnant, we were in high school, there was a mass shooting in our cafeteria. I cover her up, I get shot, I think she's fine, I see blood under her. She's pregnant, she's like ready to pop any moment. She lives long, and I see all my friends die in front of me, teachers. I get shot like 6 times. She lives long enough to give birth to my son, but then dies on the table, and I raise him. But there's this scene where I tell him, because I've never told him the truth, and I'm a firefighter, he becomes a firefighter, and we're going on this trip before he gets married, and we pull over on the side of the street, and I tell him really what happened for the first time. And just, reliving that kind of moment and being able to have that for some reason I delivered, I went really deep. I went too deep. I mean, I was like off this, the guy's like, whoa, bro, you're like, okay, then let's try dialing it back. And then but I was able to access emotion probably like I've never been able to. And then throughout the movie, the DP went up to the director and he's like, what happened to Chokachi? He goes, I mean, he was good before, but he's like on a whole new level now. Like something changed for the absolute, through the suffering, something changed for the better.
Yeah.
Like, and it's almost like an intangible, like, but I don't wish what I went through, but because during the middle of the suffering, I thought my life was over because I was in such a darkness. I thought I would never get myself back to a place like that I would never be able to find my personality, my love for life again. I was that scared. Wow. And that scared the crap out of me. But through those just natural remedies, I did. And then when I came out, it was like
the other side. It
was like a rocket ship, bro, off the bottom. Boom. I was like, people see me after. They were afraid to say something, parents, during when I was like that. But then they saw me this summer and they're like, wow, what happened, dude? Like we knew something really, you were struggling.
Yeah.
And now you're like, you're on fire, like everything, like you're something. Like what happened? Like, and it was
what a gift.
So
you through this darkness, through this tough time, from the ashes came this.
Yeah, even a buddy said, power. He's like, when I was in the middle of it and just like weeping on the phone, he's like, bro, it's gonna be. I'm telling you, it's gonna be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And I was like, but for I'd say more than a year, I was stuck in that mode, and it just seemed endless. Like nothing was in it. And luckily my daughter was resilient. She stayed strong, and she didn't vibe off me too much. And I was able to, once I pulled out, it was just like that. It was like literally just rising out of that. Now it's like I'm like
so many people suffer.
Yeah.
And what they have to understand, and they're at the end of their ropes, and some people don't make it through it.
Right.
But that's so inspiring for people to know. You just wait.
Just
hang on. Get through these darkest times.
Because I thought I felt that way. I felt like this was never ending. Like every day was horrible. I didn't want the alarm to go off. Like I didn't. Now I cannot. I get up at 4 a.m. My wife's like, "You're not sleeping enough." Like I can't stay. I can't. I'm like excited for life every single day. Like I beat the alarm every single day. I don't go to bed that early. I'm probably get someone commenting on my sleep pattern, but I'll like.
Oh, that's so inspiring.
But it's just like,
so inspiring. And what's most important is what I love is this Zest for Life, and I love you sharing it because there's so many people suffering, and it's so important that you guys hear this. It's okay to be where you are.
Yeah.
It's okay because if you just fight through it, it's going to be better. So much better.
Yeah, like don't
give up. That so many times from people that were going through tough times and dark times. Listen, I hosted and built the show Cheaters, right? And I was around just nothing but devastation, people in depression, people not knowing what's going on in their relationship, coming to me in trouble, bawling, crying to me. And my wife, my sweet wife, is going, do you have to cry with everybody? I went, what am I going to do? They're just ripping my heart out.
Right.
Every one of these stories. And then we see them after they get through it. They learn the truth, right? And it typically their marriage would pull it back together, or it would go away, but they would at least get peace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for me it was life changing. I look at life completely different now.
I bet.
When you've gone through that, just like you.
Yeah.
When you've gone through that. But
Yeah.
I wasn't the one suffering, but
you witnessed enough.
I was
of it.
so deep in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like unbelievable. It changed me, right?
Yeah.
And it allows me to, that's why I think I care so much about people and humanity.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what it can
Yeah.
do. And then I hear stories, and everybody has these stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if we just listen and we know,
Yeah.
don't give up.
Don't give
Right.
up. Like there's
Because it's going to be so great when you
yeah,
get
because
through that.
and I had a spiritual counselor, and he kept saying the greatest spiritual growth comes from the most amount of pain. I would Zoom with him. It sounded like nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, nothing was working. I'm like, dude, I gave up on him. It just didn't work. But what worked is what I told you. And then reflecting back on it, what he was saying was actually spot on. Because through that suffering, the most personal, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, growth came. And as a result, my abilities, my skills as an actor just like tripled. And
these podcasts typically go, about half this time, but this is so
we would have to break this up in a 2-part. Don't cut this stuff up.
No,
man.
we aren't. This is too good. And so if you've made it through this far, through these episodes, because it could make a great 2-parter, you are going to be so happy because this is so rich.
Yeah.
Thank you, man, again.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
so
man.
much.
My pleasure.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And you.
And I can't wait to load some dogs up on this transport tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're getting on the plane, which is even more fun.
I got to do some stretching tonight, dude.
Oh, your back's going to kill you.
Yeah, I know. Dude. I know. I'm excited, though.
All right.